Hi, Scorpio. Okay. I'm going to divide these. Wow, it's funny, interesting. Some of these are relationship cards, so that are like known as relationship cards, so that's pretty cool. Okay, you guys. All right, let me see. I have this plugged in, but it's not showing up here. Okay, so the overall theme for you in January of 2017, the new year, is the Nine of Cups. The Nine of Cups can be a card of feeling like, you know, you have just won the lottery, followed by you know, you've met your soulmate, you know. It's one of those feelings of like complete satisfaction and a sense of feeling joyful that they always like, which is kind of strange, I think, in a lot of ways. They always talk about this smugness factor, to watch out for that. And you know, this is the Morgan Greer deck. People ask a lot about that. And this particular card relates to, you know, it shows that same kind of expression as it's similar to the Rider-Waite deck in that sense. But I always like him a little bit. Taken aback is too strong a word, but kind of confused about that, because it's like, well, why would something good be, you know, smug-worthy? And the reason that I think it is saying that is because it's such a positive card. Personally, this is just my opinion, I feel like we should be happy about our successes, and that we shouldn't be ashamed to be happy. You know, we're always taught, you know, to kind of play things down. But this is how we, you know, when we feel a sense of genuine pride, or a sense of accomplishment, or just a sense of happiness. So this is the wish fulfillment card. And in a love rating, this would obviously pertain to an individual. Now, it could be, we can go by the suit being cups and connected to water signs, or somebody with a strong signature of water in their chart. So that would be a Cancer, Scorpio, a fellow Scorpio, or Pisces. It may not be their sun sign, but you would be able to tell if they were this type of person, if they are, sometimes they're very otherworldly, dreamy, imaginative, sometimes very quiet, sometimes very prone to fantasy. They like to, you know, escapism. People who, you know, are very kind-hearted. They don't like to see anybody suffering. You know, those types of people tend to have a lot of water in their chart, and it may not be their sun sign. So that type of a person could be featured. The number 9 connects to Virgo, sometimes with the major arcana being the Hermit. But in terms of that energy of the, and just the number 9 itself connects to somebody who's a visionary, could be artistic, could be humanitarian energy. So since you're Scorpio, right off the bat I thought of Aquarius. And I know that because you're both fixed signs, you sometimes find each other, even though there can be like this, you know, huge collision of wills at some point. But, you know, that could be an actual Aquarius individual who is featured, but it's somebody who makes you feel good. Now, in the past, we have the Queen of Swords. So this could be a facet of you, especially if you are a woman watching this, because the court cards can definitely relate to figures, but you know, you're a figure too in all of this. And what this would mean for a Scorpio person is that they were being maybe even guarded and trying to keep themselves in their mind rather than their hearts, because they, not wanting to get hurt. And this is a common theme for Scorpio. But it may not be that they try to act in an overly intellectual way, which would be represented by this, but that they simply try to act like they don't care, or kind of keep their hearts protected by either being overly detached or being tight-lipped about who they really are when they're in a relationship. So in some instances, there could be a mother figure, or because queens can relate to mothers, but in order for it to be relevant to a reading, it would probably be more connected to something of your emotional nature and how you were trying to protect yourself. It could relate to something regarding, another person, even like a swords would be. It's funny, I said Aquarius. Well, that's one of the air signs. Could be a Libra or a Gemini individual. The fact that it's a queen and not a king is interesting, because you do sense that feminine principle. And that's what makes me think that it could be somebody who has that either water or earth element in combination with the air sign. So again, it doesn't have to be a certain gender. We're talking about energy. Some men are more nurturing than some women. So it really doesn't have to do with that, especially in a general reading when you're just kind of like reading for God knows how many people. If I had one thing to say, I would say it's probably related more to your state of mind, that you were a little bit more detached, and then somebody finally broke through your defenses. Now, if you're watching this in December, it may be something still to come. It may not be somebody that you may still be in that Queen of Swords mentality. Now, what is coming in, interestingly, is the Two of Cups. So this is a card of either commitment on a deeper level with someone. And by the way, this is also a card of reuniting with someone. So if you were like on the outs with a partner, you may get back together. Now, that Queen of Swords, if that were the case, would be showing you trying to be detached. Maybe you were the one to initiate the split, and that was very hard for you to do. I get comments on YouTube all the time where people who are, well, it could be any sign, but I think one of the reasons why I decided to do Scorpio first is because I was just reading a comment from a Scorpio and saying about, taking a break from the relationship. Sometimes that's very hard for a Scorpio because they are fixed signs, but they're fixed water signs. So when you get your hooks into someone, when you feel that you love someone, it's very hard to pry you away from that feeling, even if the person does something wrong. And Scorpio is notorious for the jealousy and the suspicion, but it doesn't mean that you do not love fiercely, because you love very fiercely. So it's hard for you to forgive being a fixed water sign, but you can and you will if you really still love that person. You're very, you are not wishy-washy when it comes to your emotions. So you either feel someone or you don't. If you don't feel them, then 1,000 horses won't drag you to that feeling. But on the other side of things, even if somebody betrays you, some of you will give them another chance because if you still feel those feelings. So that could be a reuniting with someone. It doesn't have to be that you've met someone new, but it could be. It could be either one, because the Nine of Cups could be like you finally had your wish. And you're going to have a committed relationship, not just an affair. The Higher Message, another card, probably the best one for love, the Lover's card. Now, this is what's interesting about this, because as I say, I mentioned air signs in the past, so this is connected to Gemini. So maybe in the past, maybe that Queen of Swords is another person that you have been with, and now you're in love with a water sign. If that's the case, one of the other facets of the Lover's card is a choice that needs to be made. So for some of you, it may be that you have to decide between two different people. But the Lover's card is about getting more intimate. And of course, we see there's nothing, they're naked. So it's trying to show, like, putting down your barriers and not being so protective of your, not having that armor that I was talking about. That's what I was referring to when I said having that, that the Queen of Swords may have been you kind of putting up your barrier because you didn't want to be hurt. Well, the Lover's card is about burying your soul, even though it's showing bodies. You can't draw a soul. So that's one of the best pieces of advice I can give to Scorpios in general, is that if you really want to get close to somebody, not just physically close, but to have that connection at the soul level, you have to be willing to risk vulnerability, and you have to be, and being afraid of risking vulnerability is just your ego, which is saying, I have to always seem totally invulnerable, totally powerful, and I can't let anyone know that, I'm afraid sometimes. I'm afraid that you're going to leave me because I have those issues. I have abandonment issues, and so that's why I act suspicious sometimes when I shouldn't. And that's why I accused you of cheating, even though you claim that you didn't cheat. I accused you of it because I'm really afraid that you're going to do it. And so it's almost like if I accuse you before you do it, then it won't hurt as badly when it happens, because it's going to happen, right? I mean, it's happened to me in the past, so it's got to happen in the future, because that's how life works, right? Well, that's the kind of the deeply ingrained robotic mentality that kind of spits up, this thing which you have no idea how another person will act. The best thing you can do, though, is pick wisely. So if you're picking somebody who is very flirtatious, who, doesn't give you enough attention, and, they say things that seem like they don't add up, maybe you are dealing with somebody who's cheating. But whose fault is it in terms of when you were, getting to know them? Did you notice that they were flirtatious? It probably was always like that. It always, well, I should say it never ceases to amaze me when, I read about these celebrities who get with someone who was married, and they end up like having an affair with a married person, and then they're always so surprised when it happens to them. But they never question the integrity of that person, or even their own integrity, that they were willing to do that to another person. And a lot of people can only see things from their own point of view. When you're able to, if you're involved in some adulterous affair, if you're able to put yourself in the place of that other person, you probably wouldn't do it, because you would realize that it's a very painful thing for someone to find out about the cheating. Now, you might say to yourself, well, we'll just be very careful about it. But you know that just the fact that it's happening is something that is not the best thing to do. And I'm not trying to judge somebody's situation, because sometimes there are extenuating circumstances. I'm not going to say that 100% of the time it's bad, but I'm saying this to protect myself, because I've had people, I had somebody not too long ago say cheating is never okay. And I don't want to give the impression that I think it's okay, but I know that it exists. And so I can't just, and if I see something in these cards, like, the Lover's card, it can point to two people. That's why when you have the number two, or you have two things, it's like dualism, and there can be more than one person. So in any case, that's a really long-winded way of saying that the higher message may be that you need to learn how to be fearless in your vulnerability. So what is crossing you is the King of Pentacles in reverse. Well, it's going to be, I'm reading it like a reversed card. The King of Pentacles in an upright position can be somebody who is a boss, head honcho of some organization. It could be either a business or a store. Well, business is a store, but I was thinking, or even like a bank, any financial institution, someone who is your superior, or somebody else's superior. So the president of a bank rather than the teller, in other words. But somebody who, now this could be, I even was wondering if this was a situation with some people and a workplace situation. Because the Queen of Swords to me could be like a female boss. So if you're a supervisor and you're having an affair with the president of the company, then maybe that's what this is talking about. But the King of Pentacles can just be an individual who is very crassly materialistic. Okay, in the upright position, it's somebody who's very financially successful. But in the reverse position, it's somebody who is very vulgar, and they're materialistic displays. They're very, I think that you could say they're using it to kind of boost their self-esteem. This could be anyone who is an earth sign. So again, with the Virgo, I mentioned that with the number 9, Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus. And so they may be doing something that maybe they're a past lover and they're coming back in. We're going to have Mercury retrograde going into January. And sometimes you hear back from past relationships or, people during Mercury retrogrades. And offhand, I can't tell what sign it's. I think for you, it's going to be hitting your 3rd house, Scorpio, because it is going to begin in Capricorn. So it could be something internet related that you hear back from somebody, maybe like somebody, if you connected with somebody online, that might be particularly, or maybe Facebook is another possibility. So anything along those lines, that is what the King of Pentacles, so that person may be causing issues with you, if it's an old flame, either it's somebody you don't want to get back together with, or that person is just complicating the issue even more so. But it could be somebody who is just very crass, very materialistic, and they view everything through how much it costs. They might throw around their finances to try to impress people, but they're really not very classy in how they act. They're kind of like, they're rough around the edges, in other words. So I don't know if you have anybody in your life like that. The advice is the High Priestess, which is always a great card to get as advice because it's about going within. It could be about seeking see the moon? She's standing on the moon. Oh, and she's got a moon there too. I think Isis is the goddess of the moon. But, you may have like some kind of a decision to make between different people, and you have to really sit with it because you may be drawn to one person for one reason. Oh, by the way, this King of Pentacles person, that person may be attracting you because of money. and they may be trying to buy your affection. And that's causing you to be a little bit nervous about it. Because you may feel like, am I just like going after them because they have a better income than somebody else? Like the person with the Nine of Cups, that could be a very soul-based relationship based on your, maybe you're both water signs, for instance. And that person may be very sensitive, and they may be very like soulmate material, but maybe they don't make the kind of money that you think you need to have from a partner. I always ask people to question that, because envision being with a person who makes a lot of money and you're perfectly miserable because that person is not sensitive to your needs. That is something to really think about. Now, I'm not saying that you have to support somebody else financially and they are sitting around playing video games all day. That's not what I'm saying. That if you are someone who is enabling somebody to remain dependent, childlike, then that's the other extreme, where you're the one that's like, I was going to say the sugar mama, but that's the other extreme. And you're actually impeding their autonomy. So you don't want to do that, unless you feel like they need to, and if they've had some kind of a trauma and they just can't work, and that they're a good person and everything, and they need that downtime. I'm not going to ever say, never support somebody and let them play video games. I'm not saying that, because there might be extenuating circumstances. There are in life, where it doesn't mean that somebody's a bad person, and it doesn't mean that you're a chump if you help somebody out. But if you're the kind of person that tends to get into relationships where you're, kind of the parent and they're the child, and it's just ongoing and it doesn't show any signs of dissipating, then you do have to question that. Do you feel like you can't get another person? And also, do you really respect that person? Do you feel like they are not just, are they giving me 50% back of my investment in the relationship? No. Do you feel like equals in the relationship? And if you don't, if you feel like you're, the word mothering just jumped into my mind. If you're mothering a man, you're a woman mothering a man, there's a difference between nurturing somebody and mothering. Well, it probably is the same basic word, but I mean, nurturing somebody, we can nurture each other in different ways. And sometimes people do it through money. Sometimes one person does support the other person, but the other person provides the breadwinner something too. They contribute to the relationship in their own way. It may not be financially. So I don't want to, get off on that tangent, but I do want to say that the King of Pentacles could be somebody who makes a really good living, and yet the Cups person, the person maybe who is very sensitive, can really feed your soul. Maybe you can feed your own body. You don't need somebody else to feed your body, but you need somebody that's going to be on that spiritual journey with you. And the outcome is the Knight of Pentacles. So this card, I think they, connected specifically to Taurus. And I did mention that Taurus could be Taurus could be the Nine of Cups person too. I mean, if they could be a sun in Taurus and have a moon in Pisces, and maybe have Scorpio rising. Taurus is your opposite sign, so you do find sometimes that Scorpios and Tauruses link up. You have a connection that way, you're complementary signs. But this is a person who is very hardworking. This could be a facet of you. Maybe you're just going to roll up your sleeves in January and just be about your work. Maybe you're not even going to be, connected to. Maybe the thing is that, the cards up here tell the whole story about the Nine of, or the Two of Cups, where that person is the person that you're going to, you're engaged to, you're going to get married, and now you're just working a lot. The Knight of Pentacles is somebody who is working very hard to save money. So maybe if you're engaged, which the Two of Cups could suggest, you're, working towards having enough money to have a down payment on a home or whatever it is that maybe for your wedding or something like that. You're just working very hard. Or it could indicate the person who you end up being with. So this would be somebody who is very down to earth, very grounded, practical, and consistent. And this is probably why they specifically connected to Taurus, because Taurus is a fixed sign. And of course, the earth element connects to Pentacles. But I typically connect it to Capricorn myself, because I feel that Capricorn is always very ambitious. And this is a card of somebody who's ambitious as well, but also practical at the same time. So in any case, Scorpio, I hope you've enjoyed this. And have a great month. If you'd like a personal reading, please click on the link below. Otherwise, take care. Bye.